ॐ
सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे
वन्दे
गुरुपरम्पराम्
गुरुपरम्पराम्
ॐ सहना
ॐ
भवतु
सहना भवतु
सहनौ भुनक्तु
सहनौ
सह
भुनक्तु सह
वीर्यम्
वीर्यं
करवावहै
करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा
विद्विषावहै
विद्विषावहै
ॐ शान्ति
शान्ति
शान्ति शान्तिः
शान्तिः
हरि
ॐ
Om. Okay, so we were discussing a very, very long and important mantra, the 147, first chapter, fourth section, seventh mantra. And in the last class, while closing the class, we were talking about the Purvapakshi, the Purvamimamsika, who was talking about the particular instruction. And what was the instruction? Atma iti eva upasita. And the Purvapakshi's argument is that this is not about jnanam, this is a duty. It is an instruction to do something. And he says you have to try to know the Atma. And his interpretation was that when it says upasita, that commandment itself should be understood as study all of Shastram, study all of Vedanta, and only when you study the other portions of the Veda will you come to know the Atma. So his interpretation of Upasita means you should have to, the commandment is to go to Acharya, to go and study. Right? And Shankaracharya said that is not correct. He said the Vidhi Vakyam is a Veda Vakyam, right? Any instruction to do something or to know something is a Veda Vakyam itself. And a Vakyam which is a description of Atma, and we call it Atmavadi Vakyam, that which describes the Atma, is also Veda Vakyam. All this we saw in the last class. And the argument by Shankaracharya was that if you are saying that the instruction in one Veda Vakyam is to go and study another Veda Vakyam, then it can lead to Anavastha Doshaha. That if to read the first Veda Vakyam, you require another. To read the second one, you require another, and so on. So there will be Anavastha Dosha, infinite regression. So that is not a correct interpretation. So the Purvapakshi agrees and says, fine. But Upasita should be understood as constantly remembering the Vedas. You should remember the teachings and you should read the teachings first and always remember the teachings, because it is the remembrance of these teachings which will help you to negate the anatma vasana, which is the cause of samsara. And Shankaracharya says here, no, we cannot accept this. Up to this, we saw in the last class. So why does Shankara say that we cannot accept the idea that you are propounding? What is the idea? That you should take upasita as nididhyasanam, constantly remembering the teaching. Shankara says no, because he gives reasons. So the first one, he writes in his commentary, Artha Praptatvat. When you have known something, the memory of that will always be there. Right? Once knowledge comes, he says, memory will also come. Because you know your, what is the example? You know the body, right? Anatma, you know. Do you have to sit in samadhi and meditate to remember the anatma? No, memory remains automatically. And similarly, since anatma jnanam is always remembered because you have got the anatma jnanam. Similarly, he says, atma jnanam also, once you get, it will always be remembered. So both anatma and atma memory are there. Always. And between the two, Between Atma Jnanam and Anatma Jnanam, which is more powerful? He says it is Atma Jnanam which is more powerful. Right. Because what is the reason? Why is Atma Jnanam more powerful than Anatma Jnanam? Any idea? The answer is obvious, but I want the thinking to happen. Why does Shankara say that both Atma and Anatma memory will definitely be there? Smriti in respect of Atma and Anatma will be present all the time because you have knowledge of both. But between the two, the Anatma Jnanam is not as powerful as the Atma Jnanam. Why so? What is the basis for that statement?
Because it is Sat and all pervading.
Yes. So to put it differently, Anatma Jnanam is Mithya Jnanam, while Atma Jnanam is the correct knowledge. Therefore, the correct knowledge, that which has Sat as its basis, will always be more powerful than that which is Mithya. And he adds that while studying, while making the efforts to acquire Atma Jnanam as a sadhaka, you have learned to, what do you first see? You have learned to see all the defects of Anatma. The sadhana chatushta sampanna when you are, when you have acquired chitta yogita or the jnana yogyata, chitta shuddhi when you acquire, what does it mean? You have looked at Anatma carefully, you have viveka, you know that there are plenty of defects in Anatma. Therefore, that knowledge that Anatma is defective, that itself turns you away from Anatma and makes you turn towards Atma. Therefore, for a serious seeker who has got the right amount of sadhana chatusthayam, not focusing on Anatma does not require a great effort. It becomes more and more natural as your chitta shuddhi progresses further and further. And because of these reasons, he says, you cannot take the word upasita as a commandment to do nididhyasana, to remember the teachings. This is Shankara's explanation. The Purva Mimamsika says, okay, then fine, don't take it as nididhyasana, but take it as yogya abhyasa commandment, a commandment to practice yogic meditation. And therefore, what it means, what upasith means, is that once you have got the jnanam, you have to do dhyanam. Because without doing dhyanam, he says that Atma knowledge will never be available to you as such. Atma knowledge, according to this Purvapakshi, is indirect knowledge. It is just book knowledge. And unless you meditate upon it, it will not be assimilated in your mind. Therefore, learn to still the mind. Where does it say so? Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is nothing but the removal of thoughts from the mind. This is the argument that the Purvapakshi gives when Shankaracharya says, no, I don't accept your argument. So he gives this new argument. What does Shankaracharya say? That I don't accept the fact that the word upasita means a commandment to do nididhyasana. And so this Purvapakshi says, fine, I agree with that. I have no arguments. So let us take it as a commandment to do meditation. Yoga abhyasa commandment. Chitta vritti nirodha you should do. What is the problem with this argument? So this, what is Purvapakshi saying is, he says once yoga chitta vritti nirodha is there, then what will happen? Tada swarupe avasthanam. I hope you guys are familiar with these 2-3 beginning sutras of the Yoga Sutras. What does it mean? Yoga chitta vritti nirodha tada swarupe avasthanam. Anybody? So the argument is that having got Atmajnanam, one should go into Samadhi and remove all the thoughts from your mind. So when these thoughts are removed, then only tada, at that point of only, at that point of time only, what will happen? The seeker, the meditator, Swarupe Avasthanam, will reside in his true nature, which is Satchidananda Swarupa. Right? Therefore, you can, if you want to attain the attain is in inverted commas. If you want to attain moksha, you have to attain your Swarupam, and that Swarupam can be attained in terms of Yoga Shastram only when Chitta Vritti Nirodha is there. Therefore, meditation is absolutely necessary. And this Purva Bakshi, he quotes one more sutra of the Yoga Sutras. He says, if you don't do that, if you don't remove the thoughts from your mind, he quotes the next sutra, Vritti Saropyam Itiratraha. Then what will happen is that you will be in the same state as the thoughts which are there in the world. Vritti Sarupyam Itaratraha. The other thoughts which are there, the thoughts which have come in, because you have not managed to remove thoughts from your mind, you will be identified with those thoughts. So Vritti Saropyam. Right? And that is not moksha. That is because, therefore, very important argument is, therefore, in waking states, you always have thoughts. You are one with the vritti, right? And he says, even in Vedanta class, you are one with the vritti. There is vritti saropyam. Even in Swapna Avastha, there is vritti saropyam. The only way you can reside in your own nature, tada swarupe avasthanam, is in deep meditation when you do yoga abhyasaha, when there is no thoughts in your mind. I hope the argument is clear. This is the explanation the Purvamimamsika gives for the word upasita. Right? Okay. And Shankara says, of course, here there's a reference to the Brahma Sutras, where when we do Brahma Sutras, we'll see how Yoga Shastra has been taken up, and it is shown that the philosophy itself is an incorrect philosophy. And while there are certain portions which we accept, which portions? Those portions which do not contradict Vedic teaching, that we accept. And what is that? It is regarding the Ashtanga Yoga, those 10 steps, 8 steps for focusing the mind. That we accept because that is not contradictory to Vedic teaching. But Chitta Vritti Nirodha is definitely contradicting Vedic teachings. Because in Vedanta, we don't ask you to have a blank state of mind. What do we say? We say have focused thoughts, right? So we accept this. And therefore, moksha is gained not by emptying the mind, not by ridding the mind of all thoughts, not by chitta vritti nirodha, but moksha is gained by Vedanta alone. So with this, Shankaracharya refutes that particular argument also. Then, Purvamimamsika does not stop. He comes with another argument. He says, therefore, you are saying that there are no Vidhi Vakyams, right? So let us look at that. If there are no Vidhi Vakyams, if there are no instructions, statements of instruction, what will it mean? There will be no karma at all in Vedanta, right? Because Vidhi Vakyam means a statement to do a particular karma, to do a particular Vidhi, rules, instructions. And if you are saying that in Jnana Kanda there are no Vidhi Vakyams, then there is no karma at all in Jnana Kanda, in Vedanta. And if karma is not there, what is the problem? Karma phalam is also not there, right? That means even after you get jnanam, you will not get any purushartha at all, right? And if Vedanta has no phalams, has no purushartha, all Vedantic statements are nishprayojanam, absolutely useless. and they become Arthavada statements, giving no benefit to anybody at all. So this is another argument. You cannot say that there are no Vedi Vakyams in Jnanakanda, because no Vedi Vakyams means no Karma Phalam. No Karma Phalam means no Prayojanam. No Prayojanam means useless statements in Vedanta. Why should we study Vedanta at all? Okay, now Shankara steps back and says, fine. So let me present that argument. He says, you are saying that if there is no Prayojanam, Prayojanam is what? What is the meaning of Prayojanam?
Useful purpose.
Purpose, a useful purpose. Now Shankara says, fine. You are saying that in that case there will be no Prayojanam in the Vedic statements, in the Jnanakanda statements. But because, and why are you saying that? Because there are no Vedi Vakyams, therefore there will be no karma at all. Since no karma is there, no karma phalam is there. That is the argument you are using for saying that there is no prayojanam. Right? But Shankara says, what makes you think that prayojanam only is the result of karma? He says, your mistake is that you think prayojanam comes only through karma and karma phalam. Shankara says, Jnanam gives Purushartha. Jnanam alone can also give Purushartha. By pure knowledge, without any karma involved at all, you can get some prayojanam. What is the famous example? All of us should know. The moment such statements are made, this idea should jump into your mind. What is the example where pure knowledge without karma gives you a benefit?
Atmanyanam.
Okay, fine. That I don't dispute. Anything else?
Jnanat eva kaivalyam. Say that.
Omacharya.
Yeah.
So it's like a daily life example I would mention, but sometimes like I have my glasses on my head and I forgot I have them in my head and I'm looking for them very desperately in the house. And then when I know that I had them in my head, it gives me a great benefit of releasing my anxiety. So
Yes.
only knowledge give me the benefit.
Correct. So somebody tells you that, maybe a child tells you, Papa, that your specs are there on your head. Right? So there's no karma involved, there's only jnanam involved. That's one thing. But the famous example we take is what? Rajju Sarpaha. When you are walking on the road and the snake is adhyastaha, the snake seems to be superimposed upon the rope, what is the problem for you? What is the
Fear.
problem? Fear.
Fear.
And when the knowledge comes that it is not a snake but only a rope, because somebody tells you, what is the benefit?
Fear automatically goes.
Fear goes. When knowledge, or so when your friend tells you or your torchlight tells you that the snake is adhyasa, you don't need to get up and do some karma. You don't need to take some surf and go and remove the snake from the rope, right? That snake vanishes even as the jnanam comes. So where there is a suffering born from an error, remember that jnanam alone can remove the error, right? If a suffering is born from ignorance, the only solution is to remove the ignorance. And what removes ignorance? Only jnanam removes ignorance. Therefore, jnanam alone removes the suffering, ultimately. Right? Knowledge removes ignorance, and with that ignorance, the ignorance born mistakes or sufferings, they also vanish. And this is the argument we use. Vedantists use to emphasize that jnanam gives prayojanam without any karma. Right. In the same way, you have to extend this Raju Sarpa example to the Atma Jnana. The cause of samsara is Atma Ajnanam, right? And Atma Ajnanam leads to so many sufferings from samsara. So when you get Atma Jnanam, you have replaced or removed the Atma Ajnanam. When you remove the Atma Ajnanam, you remove the product, samsara, you remove the sufferings. There is no karma required. And therefore, in Jnana Kanda, karma is not required. And therefore, Atma iti eva upasita is not a commandment. Right? Therefore, Shankara says that you have to remember, however, I mean, I'll give a corollary also over here. When you say Jnanam can give benefits, remember it is not a universal rule. There are cases like in Jnana Kanda where you say Atma Jnanam removes samsara or Raju Jnanam removes sarpa. That is fine in knowledge field. But in the case of Karma Kanda, most of the Jnanam of the Karma Kanda does not give you any prayojanam without the corresponding karma. Right? Knowledge of, let us say, Putra Kameshtu Yajna. What is the yajna? It is the yajna for having a child. That knowledge is given where? That knowledge is given in Karma Kanda. So having studied that portion, how to do the Putra Kameshtu Yajna, that gives no benefit by itself. For the benefit, you have to do the karma of performing the yajna. So that is the rule for Karma Kanda. But in Jnana Kanda, Jnanam itself gives the Prayojanam. And therefore you cannot say that these vakyams in Jnana Kanda are Arthavada vakyams. They are very much vakyams which give Prayojan. Okay. So this is the argument used by Purva Mamsika and the reply given by Shankaracharya. Okay, now Purvamamsika, he doesn't give up, right? He has to prove that there is some sort of commandment in Jnanakanda. So he says, take the Vakyam. Which Vakyam? Atma iti eva upasit. Right? So he says, look at the word, look at the sentence itself. You can break it up into three parts. Upas, upasa. Right? Upasa is the verb. Then ta, upasita. The ta suffix makes it a commandment. So upasa is the verb which means to meditate. Right? And that is a karma, it's action. Meditate is a karma, it's action. Upasita makes it a commandment to meditate. You shall meditate. And take atma iti. Now here he uses a very grammatical argument. He says normally when you take the word iti, right, that word iti is generally used in the context of meditation, in the context of upasana. He gives an example. So in Veda has one commandment called Manaha Brahma iti upasit. So this is a meditation for visualization. Meditation for visualizing the mind as Brahman. Manaha Brahma iti upasita. The word iti in this particular statement indicates that you should think of the mind as Brahman. You should visualize the mind as Brahman. Mind is not Brahman. We all know that, right? But you should visualize the mind as Brahman. Right? And there are similarly other statements. Salagrama Vishnu iti upasita. Visualize the Salagramam as Lord Vishnu. Salagramam is what? A small inert stone. You have to visualize that inert Salagramam as the conscious Ishvara, Lord Vishnu. So here also iti is there. Salagrama Vishnuhu iti upasita. Similarly, Shivalingaha Shivaha iti upasita. You have to visualize that inert stone, inert Shivalingam as Lord Shiva, this conscious being, right? Iti upasita. Therefore, he says, whenever the word iti is found in the vicinity of upasita, it has to be taken as meditate. This is the argument which he uses. Okay. Very, very solid argument because he has quoted from other commandments where it is clearly for the purpose of meditation. Okay. What is the refutation? Shankara says. So Shankara says that upasa should not be taken as visualization or meditation. But in this particular context, which context? Atma iti upasita. In this particular context, it should be taken as jnanam only. Why? Because of the very context. Right. And this is a very important argument in Mimamsa, in the interpretation of Vedic statements. He says, if there is a particular statement which lends itself to, let us say, more than one interpretation, and some of them are contradictory, how do you choose out of all the possible interpretations? How do you choose which is the appropriate one? So he says, you first see the preceding portions and then see the following portions, succeeding portions. Whichever interpretation you choose, it has to be consistent with the preceding and the succeeding portions. You cannot choose an interpretation which is completely, out of the way. It has to be in harmony with both the portions, preceding and succeeding. Now, what is the preceding portion? Do you remember? The preceding portion to 147 is what? Obviously 146, 145, 144, etc. What was that portion? Anybody? No?
Talking of Anupravesha of
Very
Brahman.
good. Very good. It was Anupravesha Shruti. Right? Anupravesha Shruti is what? It is Jnanam only. Right? Now, so the preceding portion was Anupravesha Shruti, and as we shall see, the succeeding portion is the Aham Brahmasmi Mahavakyam. Therefore, what is the context? Is it Jnanam or Upasana? Anupravesha is Jnanam. Aham Brahmasmi is a Mahavakyam, which is Jnanam. Sandwiched between two Jnanam portions, you cannot have a Upasana portion. And therefore, this is Jnana Prakaranam alone. It cannot be said to be Upasana Prakarana. So the words have to be interpreted in a particular context only, right? And contexts will completely give a different meaning to the same word, right? Let's take English for example. Take the balloon, right? You inflate a balloon, right? So inflation in the context of a balloon is very much different from inflation in the context of economics, right? The word well, W-E-L-L, in the context of health is different from the same word in the context of water. And therefore, upasa generally can mean upasana. It's one of the meanings possible. But in this context, because of the preceding and the succeeding prakaranams being jnana prakaranam alone, this prakaranam also has to be taken as jnana prakaranam. So upasa means get the knowledge. Upasa means get the knowledge. Upasita means get the knowledge. Doesn't mean meditate. Okay. Now, what is left? Upasa we have seen. Now there is a word ta, which we talked about. Right. So there is a commentator called Sarvagni Atma Muni. Okay. He is a disciple of Sureshwaracharya. And he has written a small summary on Brahma Sutras. He says that the word ta, in fact, you yourself, he tells the Purva that you yourself say that the word ta is a commandment. But in his own philosophy, he points out that even where there is a commandment, even where there is no commandment, in Purvamamsika has some statements in his arguments, not here, elsewhere, where he says that you need not necessarily have the word with the ta. The ta commandment need not necessarily be there. But sometimes only when there is a statement, to take the context. It may only be a statement. But if the context is karma, then you have to take that particular statement not as a statement, but as a commandment. Right? So that's a violation of his basic principle. And the argument here is that if you can violate grammar according to the context, why do you object when I, the Vedantin, also do the same thing? Therefore, in this Jnanam context, where commandment is not possible, that ta should be taken not as a commandment, but as a proposition, as a statement only. Okay, so all very involved arguments. I hope you guys are following very, very closely. And Shankaracharya says that this bhavana, right? This is a thing which you have seen before. That this bhavana creates an idea in the mind that I should accomplish something. So we talk about Shabda Bhavana, right? It creates an idea in your mind that I should accomplish something. And he says, from this, three questions arise. So we saw this before. Kim kartavyam, kena kartavyam, katham kartavyam. Right? And what is the argument? When Vedanta tells me that I am everything, right? When Vedanta tells you that you are everything, you are infinite, you are everything, then what possible curiosity can come up in your mind? Because if I am, of course, I am assuming that once Vedanta has said this, I am fully convinced of the fact that Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. When I am Brahman, right, there is nothing more for me to accomplish. Everything is contained in me. So what is there for me to accomplish? And when I have nothing to accomplish, where is the question of any commandment to accomplish anything? So there is no question of any commandment at this stage. A very beautiful argument used by Sarvagnya Atma. Okay. Right. Now, we have finished that portion, Upasita. Now the word iti is taken up. So Shankara says the context shows what context? The preceding context and the succeeding context. It shows that I am Brahman. And I am Brahman is therefore a statement of a fact. It is not something to be visualized. Therefore, when you use the word iti, it only signifies that you should know the Atma as yourself without trying to think of it as a prameyam, as an object. So, without objectifying the Atma, when you say I am Atma, the word iti, he says, indicates this particular owning up of Atma as yourself without the necessity of having another object as Atma. Therefore, iti is justified, upasita is justified. What is the final meaning then of Atma iti upasita? Shankara says it means own up Brahman as yourself without trying to objectify Brahman as a second entity. There is only you. So own up that Brahman as yourself. Aham Brahma Asmi. Right? So this, therefore, Atma iti eva upasita has the same effect as Aham Brahma Asmi. And this is called Vidya Sutra. Right? This is the, actually speaking, This is the Upakrama Vakyam, the opening statement of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Okay. Like we had in Bhagavad Gita, right? The verse 11 of chapter 2. What is the verse 11? Was the Upakrama Vakyam.
Ashokyananda.
Kochyan and
So
Vashojastha.
that was the Upakrama Vakyam. What was the Upasamhara Vakyam of Bhagavad Gita?
66.
66. Right. So we have 211 and 1866 as the Upakrama Vakyam and the Upasamhara Vakyam. So here similarly, this particular Vakyam, the Vidya Sutram, is the Upakrama Vakyam of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And what is the rule? That the Upakrama and the Upasamhara Vakyams must be a summary of the teachings. So it's like it's like a news program. First headlines, then expansion, then headlines. In our language, first summary, expansion, then summary. Upakramaha, expansion, upasamhara. That is the way in which the teaching takes place. Therefore, this Vidya Sutram summarizes the essence of the whole Upanishad. Which means that after this Vidya Sutram, whatever comes between the Vidya Sutram and the Upasamhara Vakyam is the expansion of the Vidya Sutram. And the Upasamhara Vakyam again compresses the whole teaching into one Vakyam. And the Upasamhara Vakyam comes in the end of the 4th chapter. And the very famous Vakyam, Neti Neti. Okay. Remember that this Upanishad has 6 chapters, but the Upasamhara comes at the end of the 4th chapter. So within these 2 mantras, Atma iti eva upasita and Neti Neti, the entire teaching is there. With this, the Vidya Sutra Bhashyam is over. So I'll just stop here. I hope it has been clear. If there are any questions, please ask now. It is very heavy, I know, but this is the crown of all the Upanishads. It contains the entire teaching of all the Upanishads.
Sir, it's
Yeah.
no, I'm just not asking the question. It seems fine when you are saying it, but then when we listen to it again, then somehow we need to keep listening to get it registered in our mind.
Yeah, that of course a must. That is what is Nididhyasanam. You have to keep on listening until it becomes absolutely pakka.
Yes.
Okay, now we will continue the rest of the mantra. 147, last few lines, last 2 lines, or last 1 line actually. So I'll just chant, you chant with me. Atra hi ete sarve ekam bhavanti.
Atra hi ete sarvam ekam bhavanti.
Tad etat padaniyam asya sarvasya.
Tadetat padaniyamasya.
Yeah.
Yat ayam atma anena hi etat sarvam veda.
Yadayamatma anena hyetat sarvam veda.
यथा हवै पदेन अनुविन्देत एवं कीर्तिं श्लोकं विन्दते य एवं वेद
Yatha
यथा
vai
वै
padenanu
पदेनानुविन्देदेवं कीर्तिलोकं विन्दते य एवं वेद
veda.
So Atma iti upasita means that I know Brahman as myself, the Atma. And what is Atma? Atma is the consciousness principle, the Chaitanyam, which is there in me. And here, why is it called the Atma? That is being talked about. Atra hi ete sarva ekam bhavanti. Atra hi ete. In this consciousness alone, in this Atma alone, sarvam ekam bhavanti. Everything is there. Everything is resolved. Ekam bhavanti means becomes one, becomes resolved. And sarvam means what? All the roles, shrotra, mantra, manta, vijnana, seer, hearer, thinker, doer, walker, talker. Everything gets resolved into this Atma. Right? That means all the Vishesha Jnanam, particular Jnanam, like what? Gata Jnanam, Pata Jnanam, all this Jnanam, they are basically resolving into Chaitanyam itself, which means they are born from Chaitanyam itself. All the knowledge which you have, they are born from that consciousness, they rest in that consciousness, and they resolve into that awareness consciousness alone. Therefore, all particular knowledge, so the word particular knowledge is, in English, so it's more comprehensive to say savishesha jnana, knowledge which has objects. So all savishesha jnanam rises from that consciousness and again resolves into that consciousness. Remember, the consciousness is nirvishesha. It's a very nice statement. All savishesha jnanam, particular knowledge, objective knowledge, arises from that objectless consciousness and resolves into that objectless consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is what is the substratum, is the adhishthanam itself. When thoughts arise in my mind, the mind plus the consciousness becomes known as particular knowledge, specified knowledge. For example, if I am looking at a pot thought comes to my mind. That pot thought plus the consciousness, that is the pot knowledge. The pot thought is inert. It is the pot thought plus the consciousness which makes it pot jnanam. Similarly, tree thought with consciousness, in conjunction with consciousness, it becomes tree jnanam. Right? So, as and when thoughts arise, the object knowledge also arises because consciousness is there as the substrate. Right? When the thoughts go away, the object goes away. What remains is objectless consciousness. Like when pot is born in space, then you make a pot in the space, right? A potter comes and makes a pot in the space. When the pot is born in that space, when the pot originates, what happens? Pot space is born. When the pot breaks, nothing happens to the pot space. You just rename it as normal space, Maha Akasha, potless space. Similarly, everything that you have, all the faculties, seeing, hearing, thinking, walking, talking, all of them arise in Atma, all of them are sustained in Atma, all of them resolve into Atma. That's why we say apnoti sarvam iti Atma, that which pervades the entire universe, sarvam, everything that is there, what pervades, iti Atma, that alone is Atma. Okay. Now, he gives a bit of the glory of knowledge. He says, Asya Sarvasya, among everything in this creation, Tadetat Padaniyam. Tadetat, this Atma alone, Padaniyam, is to be known. And why is it worth knowing? Anena hetat sarvam veda. Anena hi etat sarvam veda. By getting this knowledge of Atma, you will get knowledge of everything. So self-knowledge, Atma knowledge gives you Atma Jnanam, gives you Sarva Jnanam, makes you omniscient. And here an example is given. It's a peculiar example. Yatha vai padena anuvindet eva. So just as you can find the animal with the help of the marks of the foot, padena. Padena is, you have to understand. The animal, when it walks on the ground, it leaves a mark on the ground, right? So how do you find the animal? Supposing your dog is missing. You go outside and see the hoof marks are there. The hoof marks, no, dog's paw marks are there, right? So you follow the paw marks and you come to the dog. If it is a cow, the cow has wandered around. You follow the hoof marks and you come to the cow. So he says this Atma is the footmark by which you can know everything. That is what it, and everything is the cow or the dog, right? If you are giving comparison, the footmark is the Atma and the everything is the cow or the dog. So you hold on to the Atma, follow the Atma, and finally you will know everything. This is the example which is given. And then comes the Phalasruti. Kirtim shlokam vindate ya evam veda. You gain fame. This is the, what is the benefit of this knowledge? You gain fame and also shlokam. Shlokam here means fulfillment of your desire. Kirtim shlokam vindate. You will gain fame and all your desires will be fulfilled through Atma Jnanam alone. Ya evam veda. This you should know. What is the reason? It is because Atma alone is everything. And this we saw in Chandogya Upanishad. Right? So, Kirtan means the Jnani will get name and fame. And Shankaracharya in his commentary makes a distinction between Kirtan and Shlokam. So, he says Kirtan, the common meaning is fame. Therefore, the Jnani becomes famous in the world because of his knowledge. And Shlokam, the common meaning is Sambandha. Therefore, he will get association with everybody. So, Maitra Karuna Eva, we saw in Bhagavad Gita. And then Shankara gives another meaning, a contextual one this time. He says Kirti means the Aikya Jnana. Right? By knowing Atma, what happens? He knows the Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyam. He knows the oneness of everything. And therefore, this Aikyam, Aikya Jnanam is the meaning of Kirti. So, all these three, this is the phalam of Atma Vijnanam. And in the second meaning, Shlokam, Shankara takes as moksha. Kirtim, Shlokam, Vindate means a person will get Atma Jnanam, that is the Paramatma, Jivatma, Aikya Jnanam, and moksha. Who will get Ya Evam Veda, one who knows in this manner only, one who has studied in this manner only. With this, the seventh mantra is over, 147 is over. If there are any questions, we can have them. Or I can move on to the eighth one, which will start, but we will not complete. So there is a lot of quiet from your side. So I'm just wanting to know whether, is it okay? Are you guys understanding? Is it too much? Do you want it slower? Do you want it faster?
It's fine, Acharyaji.
Okay, fine. So I will take that June's answer as representing all of you guys. Okay.
Oh,
Fine.
Acharya, Upa is confusing us. The Purva Pakshis are confusing us.
Guru
At times.
Bakshi, if you don't study, you will
Yeah.
have no doubts.
Yeah.
And if you have no doubts, it's as good as having no knowledge because you
Right.
have the doubts and resolve them.
Yes.
Okay, now let us look at the eighth mantra we will chant. Tadetat preya putrat.
Tadetat preya putrat.
Preyo vittat preyo anyasmat.
Preyo vittat preyo anyasyamat.
Sarvasmat anantarataram yadayam atma.
Sarvasmat anantaram yadayamatma.
Sayo anyamatmanah priyam bhuvanam.
तयोन्यनमात्मानः प्रियं ब्रुवाणम्
ब्रूयात् प्रियं रोत्स्यति
ब्रूयात् प्रियं रोत्स्यति
ईश्वरो तथैव स्यात्
ईश्वरो तथैव स्यात्
आत्मानमेव प्रियमुपासीत
आत्मानम् एव प्रियमुपासित
स य आत्मानमेव प्रियमुपास्ते
स आत्मानमेव प्रियमुपास्ते
न हास्य प्रियं प्रमायुकं भवति
हास्य प्रियं प्रमायुकं भवति
So another very, very important verse in this mantra. And the essence of this mantra is that Atma is dearest to everyone. Of all the things in the world, Atma is the dearest of all the things. Now, how do we say that Atma is dearest of all things? So, in Vedanta says, Shruti says that there are only two things which are really loved by all people. It's a very interesting discussion. There's actually the universal laws. So there are only two things which everybody in the world loves. What is that? So there's a universal law number one. Everybody loves sukham, pleasure, right? And number two, second part of the universal law is everybody loves sukha sadhanam, that which gives you pleasure. So you can think about this. Everybody loves pleasure. Everybody loves the thing which gives you pleasure. Thing or person or tool which gives you pleasure. You can analyze this any way you want. You will never be able to find an exception to this law. Everybody runs after anything because he is looking for happiness. Whether it be food, whether it be friends, whether it be, tours, whether it be bar, whether it be whiskey, whether it be TV, whether it be your spouse. This rule is absolutely pakka. You run after pleasure only, and whoever you run after, that is the sukha sadhana, the tool for your pleasure. Do you agree or do you not agree?
Agree.
Yes.
Anybody who doesn't agree? And if you don't agree, tell us why you don't agree.
We presume we are talking on Vyavaharika level. Yes, Acharya.
Okay.
The Sukha Sadhanam between talking.
Now, between the sukham and the sukha sadhanam, which is conditional and which is not conditional, I mean, the love for which is conditional and the love for which is not conditional. This is the law.
Sadhana is conditional.
This is law number 2. The love for sukham is primary and unconditional. Therefore, it is primary. You love sukham because it is sukham, because it gives you pleasure. But the love for the sukha sadhanam is secondary because it is conditional. You love that sukha sadhanam only because it gives you sukham. The moment it ceases to be a sukha sadhanam, then you will not love it. Right? Another corollary. Once you have attained the sukham through the sadhanam, the sukham is the sadhyam, remember, in Sanskrit words, sukham is sadhyam and the sadhanam is whatever tool you are using. Therefore, once you have attained the sadhyam, which is sukham, thereafter the sadhanam need not be loved. Once the sadhyam is attained, the sadhanam becomes non-relevant. Therefore, the love for the sadhyam, the sukham, is primary because it is unconditional for everyone. And the love for the sukha sadhanam is secondary because it is conditional love. Therefore, really speaking, love for Sukha Sadhanam is not real love at all. It is nothing but the primary love for the Sukham, which is being falsely, which is falsely appearing on the Sukha Sadhanam. Agreed?
Yes.
Yes.
Not very happy things to agree upon, but since you are all very advanced students, I didn't expect any objection at all. Okay. Now comes the third law. The scripture says that Atma alone is Sukha. So you have to connect the second law and the third law. Sukham alone is truly loved. Atma alone is Sukham. Therefore, what is the derivation?
Atma alone is loved.
Everybody loves Atma alone. Right? Now here comes some things which are very unpleasant hearing for people who are grahasthas. Any love for the first sentence is Atma alone is loved. Therefore, any love for Anatma, whether it be your spouse or your son or your parents or your house, your money, your position, everything is Anatma only. And since they are Anatma, they are all Sukha Sadhanam alone. So when they are loved only as Sukha Sadhanam. When you love your wife, when you love your husband, your son, your parents, that love is only as Sukha Sadhanam, as a tool for your own Sukha. Right? And if it is loved as a Sukha Sadhanam, remember that it is always conditional love. Because you love anything only as long as it gives you Ananda. Sukha. Therefore, it is conditional love. So you love anything because it gives you Ananda. Everything is love for your own sake. When you say, I love something because it gives me Ananda, you are equating that Sukham and Atma here. So everything is loved for Atma's sake, for Ananda's sake. And this is a technical word in Sanskrit called Atma Sheshatvam. Everything is loved because of Ananda only. Because of Atma only, because of Ananda only. Everything that you love conditionally is always a Sukha Sadhanam. The moment it stops being a Sukha Sadhanam, you will drop it, which is the reason why friendships break up, why divorces take place, because one spouse stops being a Sukha Sadhanam. Right? And once this Sukha Sadhanam has ceased to be a Sukha Sadhanam, it can also become a Dukkha Sadhanam, a tool for giving you sorrow. Your new car, which you bought yesterday, is Sukha Sadhanam for the first 3 or 4 years. But when it stops running, it causes you pain, becomes a Dukkha Sadhanam. Is this a mistake in the car? No. Or the person? No. It is your own error. Why? Because you are expecting unconditional love from other people. And that is error because you said that everybody loves themselves alone. Atma alone. Nobody loves another thing or another person excepting by way of Sukha Sadhana. Primary love as Sukham, as Ananda, is always yourself. And having known that, you should know that is true of all other people also. Therefore, if you expect your spouse to love you unconditionally, if you expect unconditional love from your parents or from your children, who is at fault? You alone are. And we can extend this to God also. Even God, love for God cannot be true as primary unless what?
unless we accept that Ishvara Jiva Aikyam.
Unless you accept that you and Ishvara are the same, then only you can say that your love for the Lord is the highest. Because the fact remains that love for yourself is the highest. The only way in which the love for Lord can be highest is if the Lord and you are the same. So with this, we'll stop for today. Any questions? Okay, we'll continue the discussion in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience. Om Om Om.
Thank you, Acharya Ji.